Welcome to my channel.
The sound of shattering glass and the howling wind were the first things the protagonist heard. His consciousness returned slowly, as if emerging from a deep sleep, shrouded in darkness and oblivion. Faint light penetrated through the cracked window walls, scattering in puddles of reflections on the floor. The hero lay on a cold, dust-covered surface. His body was weakened, as though he had gone through something terrible and exhausting. Slowly rising to his feet, the hero surveyed his surroundings. He was in an abandoned city, its streets cluttered with broken, disfigured cars. Rusty, overturned vehicles piled up on each other like metallic pyres of destruction. They filled the space between the half-destroyed houses, like architectural remnants of a past civilization. The buildings looked dead, long abandoned by people. The lower floors were covered in moss and green garlands of climbing plants, as if nature was trying to return and reclaim its rights. In the black voids of the windows, the wind howled, creating ominous melodies. The road surface cracked, and grass confidently grew in the crevices. Right through a neighboring car, lifting it above the road, a small tree had sprouted. How long ago was this city abandoned? What happened here? The main character couldn't understand where he was or what was happening around him. Moreover, he was painfully trying to remember who he was, his name, what this place was, and how he got here. And he couldn't. His memory was a void, filled only with fragments of insignificant details, like a puzzle scattered across different corners of his mind. His memories did not form a complete picture. He remembered nothing, absolutely nothing. His last conscious memory was of being released from a sarcophagus, fruitlessly hovering in the air and searching for a suitable body. It seemed wrong, as if a part of something immeasurably important had been taken from him. But that was how it was. Michael continued to explore the abandoned city, despite his memory loss and a lack of understanding of the surrounding world. His steps echoed through the forgotten streets, as if he were the last living person in this wasteland. Encountering deserted houses, Michael felt that they had long been uninhabited. The lower floors were filled with moss and green garlands of climbing plants, creating the impression that nature was on its way to recovery. Soon Michael encountered other survivors, or at least those who were not infected by the epidemic. They explained to him that the world as he remembered it had been destroyed by an epidemic of unknown origin. People were infected by monsters, mutants, and zombies, created by a mysterious substance. Michael began to realize that he had become part of this nightmarish reality. Fear and anxious thoughts about what had happened took hold of him. However, it was clear to him that he would have to fight, survive, and seek answers if he wanted to find his past and understand what had happened to this world. Michael and his new companions continued their journey through the abandoned city in search of answers and ways to survive. With each step, they encountered grim traces of the epidemic and horrors of the post-apocalypse. As they moved, they repeatedly encountered mutants and monsters spawned by the mysterious substance. Fear and tension grew with each encounter. The mutants, with their distorted faces and repulsive forms, were more dangerous than one could imagine. They had to use all their resources and survival instincts to avoid confrontations with them. In these moments of struggle, Michael began to develop his survival skills and instincts. He realized that in this world, one must always be alert and ready for any challenge that fate might throw. The main group of survivors continued their journey, facing new dangers and occasionally finding threads that could lead them to answers. The thirst for knowledge and the desire to survive inspired Michael and his companions to seek a path through this hell, even if they did not know what exactly they would find at the end of this grim path. As they progressed through the devastated world, Michael and his companions began to discover strange artifacts and clues that could reveal the secrets of what had happened to this world. They started to gather information and connect the fragments of a forgotten past. One such artifact was an ancient journal found in an abandoned library. It described the beginning of the epidemic, the attempts of scientists and the government to understand and contain the terrifying spread of the disease. However, the pages of the journal ended without any conclusions. Other survivors whom Michael and his group met along the way shared their own stories and information about different factions and communities organized in this world. However, each story seemed to be just a piece of the puzzle, and Michael understood that only by combining them could he uncover the truth. In search of answers, they headed to a location rumored to be the remnant laboratory of scientists involved in the epidemic. They realized that this place might hold the key to unraveling the mystery of this catastrophe. Michael and his group of survivors embarked on a dangerous journey to the remnant laboratory of scientists, where they believed the keys to unraveling the mystery of the epidemic and the way to overcome it might be stored. Their path led through abandoned districts and dangerous corners of the city. Around them, the world that was once alive but now shrouded in darkness and death-breathed heavily. They faced new dangers, not only mutants and zombies, but also other survivors who were ready to do anything for their survival. On the way, Michael began to remember more about the circumstances that led him here. He saw flashes of past life before his eyes. He was part of a project related to the study of a mysterious substance. This substance, apparently, led to the catastrophe that other survivors talked about. Gradually, the picture of the past began to come together, but many questions remained unanswered. On their way to the laboratory, Michael and his companions knew that they had to find more fragments of this daunting puzzle, and, perhaps, save the world from complete destruction. As they approached the scientist's laboratory, Michael began to realize that his past was connected to this place and the research of the mysterious substance. Streams of memories, like fragments of a film, started to appear in his mind, leaving him with a sense of a pressing mystery. He remembered his work in the laboratory and the scientists he collaborated with. They were trying to decipher the nature of the mysterious substance, hoping to find a way to control it. However, at some point, everything went out of control. The substance mutated, turning people into monstrous mutants and zombies. Michael began to understand that his own actions might have been part of the reason for this catastrophe. He felt that he needed to find answers and unravel the mystery of this pain and suffering that he saw in the world around him. Michael's companions supported him in this quest, understanding that their mission had become more important than ever. But with each new memory, Michael realized that their path might lead to even more horrific truths than they expected. Michael continued to recall his research in the laboratory and his own role in it. It became clear to him that he was part of a project related to the development of a substance that was supposed to change the world. But something went wrong. The substance mutated, and he witnessed the apocalypse. Memories took him back to the moment he left the laboratory, trying to find salvation from the horrors he helped create. Everything, including his own identity, was in question. What was his role in this disaster, and how could he rectify his actions? After a long and dangerous journey, Michael and his group approached the scientists' laboratory, their last hope for answers. But they were not the only ones seeking the truth. In the laboratory, they encountered the main antagonist, the face behind the entire catastrophe. The battle began. Michael and his companions faced a great danger that sought to end their quest once and for all. The fight was fierce, but Michael and his comrades were ready to do anything for the truth and survival. The fate of the world and the possibility of finding answers to the mystery of the epidemic depended on this battle. At the end of the fight, Michael and his group hoped to find the final answers that would help them solve the puzzle started by this terrible catastrophe. After the fierce battle in the laboratory, Michael and his group finally gained access to the information and documents that could unravel the mystery of the epidemic. In the depths of the laboratory, they discovered the diaries of scientists, records, and documents related to the experiments conducted with the mysterious substance. Through these records, the picture of what happened began to come together. The experiments to study the substance were conducted too naively, and its mutation began to spread with relentless speed. The scientists behind these studies realized they had created a horror, but it was already too late. Michael and his companions also learned that there was a chance to develop an antidote that could stop the mutation and restore order to the world. This antidote was stored in a secured location near the laboratory. Now Michael and his group had a final goal: to find the antidote, stop the spread of the epidemic, and possibly restore hope to the world. But the path to the antidote was even more dangerous and mysterious than they could imagine. Michael and his group set out in search of the antidote that could change the fate of the world. The path to it was dangerous and enigmatic, and every step was fraught with risk and fear. They had to confront new horrors, which included not only mutants and zombies, but also other survivors who longed for control over the antidote. The battle for the future of the world became even more fierce. During their journey, Michael also unraveled the remaining puzzles of his past life and his role in this catastrophe. He realized his responsibility for creating this terrible reality, and it became his inner burden. But he knew that there was now a chance to correct his mistakes and find a way to stop the mutation, restoring peace. Their path became more and more certain, but none of them could predict what horrors and discoveries awaited them ahead, in the very heart of this nightmarish reality. Michael and his group continued their journey to the location where, apparently, the antidote capable of stopping the mutation and restoring peace was located. But every step was fraught with dangers. Their enemies became increasingly aggressive, and time was mercilessly ticking away. With each new discovery and confrontation, they were getting closer to the decisive moment. Michael felt that his responsibility for past events far outweighed his fear and doubts. He was ready to do anything to correct his mistakes and find a way to end the suffering caused by the mutation. Time was becoming an exhausted resource, and their journey was nearing its end. However, they did not know what awaited them at the location of the antidote, and what this last chance would bring for the world and for each of them. As they approached the location where they believed the antidote was, the tension and anxious thoughts intensified. Michael and his group encountered the final obstacles on their path, whether it be mutants, predators, or other survivors who were ready to do anything to get the antidote into their hands. They reached the point where the antidote was supposed to be stored, only to find it abandoned and empty. The place had been ravaged by destruction and chaos, and the antidote was not there. Michael felt despair and disappointment, but he was determined to find answers, and the antidote until the last chance was lost. They discovered documents and indications that the antidote had been moved to another location, a secret vault held by the authorities. Now, Michael and his group faced their final test, to find this secret vault and obtain the antidote before the horrors of the mutation prevailed. This was their last chance to save the world and find the true answers. Michael and his group set out in search of the secret vault where they believed the antidote might be located. They knew that they had very little time left, and every minute was crucial. The journey to the vault was fraught with dangers and obstacles. They faced fierce enemies who tried to hinder them. But Michael and his companions were determined and ready for the final battle for the future of the world. As they approached the vault, Michael remembered more and more about his past life and his role in creating this nightmarish reality. His responsibility was immense, but his determination was unbreakable. Finally, they reached the vault, but they were not alone. A final battle awaited them, where the stakes were higher than ever. Michael and his companions were ready to confront the path to the antidote and turn their hopes into reality. This was their last chance, and they were prepared to use it for the sake of saving the world. The battle in the vault was fierce and intense. Michael and his group fought against numerous and deadly enemies who were prepared to do anything to prevent them from reaching the antidote. In the chaos of the battle, Michael remembered his past life, his actions and decisions that led to this catastrophe. He knew that now he must find a way to atone for his sins and restore hope to the world. His friends supported him, standing by his side in this decisive moment. The battle lasted long, but finally Mikhail and his companions emerged victorious. They overcame their enemies and achieved their goal. In the vault, they found the antidote and information on how to use it to stop the mutation. Now they had the last chance to restore hope to the world and end the nightmare that had engulfed the planet. Michael was ready to go to the end, to correct his mistakes and find a way to restore peace and save the survivors. This was their final battle, their last chance, and they were ready to take it, even if it meant sacrificing their lives. With the antidote in hand, Michael and his group returned to where the epidemic began, to where it all started. They knew this was the only place where they could try to stop the mutation and return the world to its normal state. Their last chance was here, and they could not afford to make a mistake. Michael remembered his actions and responsibility for creating this nightmarish reality, and it weighed heavily on him, but he was determined to rectify his mistakes. Using the antidote and the instructions they found in the vault, Michael and his group began the process that could change the fate of the world. Fear, hope, and an internal struggle converged at this moment as they introduced the antidote into the environment for the first time. The mutation began to recede, and the world started to slowly but surely return to normal. Michael and his group watched as plants revived. Mutants lost their aggression, and zombies regained their human state. This was the return of the hope they had long sought. The world, which was lost, began to recover thanks to their efforts. Michael felt like an executor of penance for his sins, and he hoped that his actions could revive the world. Michael's companions also felt relief and hope. This was the beginning of a new era, and a chance to start over. They couldn't change the past, but they could influence the future. This story was a tale of struggle, regret, and ultimately, hope. Despite all the trials and losses, Michael and his group managed to change the fate of the world and bring hope back to this devastated world. Their story became a legend of resurrection and their incredible determination to change the future, despite all the challenges and dark secrets of the past.